But now, ladies and gents, we arrived at the biggest and the one that kind of broke the camel's back in regards to people who were reportedly fans and then they were like, nah, I'm out, bro. Apparently, I don't know. But it's Breaking Dawn. Yep, that's right. The longest book in the franchise so far. Because, as you know, Stephanie Meyer decided to cash in on a couple more books in this franchise. Because this is the only franchise that she will write about now. I don't know. No harsh feelings towards Stephanie Myers or whatever. But still, yeah. This is the one that broke the camel's back in regards to many people. It's Breaking Dawn. The ending that was very, very, very lackluster. Now, apparently, there is some lore, if you will, in regards to this book, as opposed, from previous videos, you could probably tell where I'm going with this. But apparently, for Twilight, Stephanie Meyer decided that, she wanted Twilight to be a standalone book, but instead of, having 3 other sequels to that book. And then, for personal reasons, I guess, she wrote a epilogue novel called Forever Dawn, which would be a kind of a better-ish title. Breaking Dawn is kind of weird, but Forever Dawn is kind of more appealing to me. I don't know why. Anyway, this book, she decided that, she would kind of not change most things in that Forever Dawn book and kind of put it in Breaking Dawn. Yeah, she released it as Breaking Dawn, except she admittedly, I guess, didn't rewrite a lot of it, except for, the inclusion of Jacob and all that, which is kind of, spoiler alerts, the only thing that really gets the most fleshed out in regard to this book. But then again, it's not for the better. But also, what is kind of peculiar about these novels or this novel at least, is it's split into 3 distinct sections, which are also called books. Why? I don't know. Whatever. Like, I get it, right? This Lord of the Rings. Book 1, The Fellowship of the Ring. Book 2, The Two Towers. Book 3, The Return of the King. They are books. They are actual, long, standalone books, but coming together, it's the whole thing, the whole book, the whole novel, The Lord of the Rings. I get that. But this, no, there's not enough material in this one book to split it off into 3 books. Why, Stephanie? Why? And the worst thing about it is that Book 1 is told from Bella's point of view. Book 2 is told by Jacob's point of view. Book 3, what do you think? What could you possibly believe that this longest book in this novel, the longest part in the novel, what do you think is from, which character do you think it's point of view from? Okay, I'll give you 3 minutes or 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. It's Bella. Yeah, again, why? There are 3 main characters in this story now. Edward doesn't get a book. He gets nothing in this wide realm. I don't know. Maybe she was thinking, oh yeah, I'll write Midnight Sun from Edward's perspective, and that'll be his book. Maybe, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. But let's get into this plot, okay? Oh gosh. Yeah, from reading this, I can see why people kind of fell off of this book. Anyway, though, so Bella is driving this huge armor-plated politician car that Edward insisted on buying her for her protection. Yep. And through all of this, she's looking at these posters of, have you seen Jacob throughout town? Because apparently, in between the third book and this book, Jacob has permanently transformed into a werewolf and has been cross-country, roaming through America and Canada just as a wolf now. But I guess because Bella's gonna marry Edward or whatever. Okay. Bella and Edward tell of her parents, I guess, that she's going to get married to Edward. Her father is 100% against it, but her mother is 100% on board with it because of young married love and all that. And okay, whatever. The book also reinterprets the whole negotiating in the previous book, which was painful to say the least. But anyway, so we hear that Edward will have sex with Bella. Finally. Oh, gosh, golly gee, kind folks. They'll finally consecrate their love after they get married and while Bella is human. Because, of course, Bella also has an offhand remark that, she this whole thing looks like a shotgun wedding, but Edward's like, oh, it's not because vampires can't have children. And as even I know through the cringe that is the last movie that they do have a kid, so get ready for this. And apparently we get this whole another Lewis lore dump. Oh, wait, no, it's a Meyer lore dump. A MLD, if you will. Detailing this whole other vegetarian vampire family or whatever that Edward apparently had sex with with this one chick from this one family, and she really, really wanted kids to the point where the Ventari, destroyed her vampiric mother because she was that desperate to have a kid. She vampirized a toddler. That's kind of bizarre and kind of adds a lot of questions. Like, for instance, does she stay a toddler forever? If so, why? And she's going to be like a toddler for the rest of her life, or she's going to be small, like what that little person in what was that Marvel movie? Eternals, that's right. I was going to say Elemental. I don't know. They're both mediocre both mediocre Disney movies. Yeah, I said it. Eternals is mediocre at best. I'm sorry. I still like it though. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, this stupid book. So yeah, a lot of questions. They just drop that toddler thing and they don't really bring anything else up. You kind of leave with that thing like, oh yeah, so this toddler is going to be a toddler for, eons now. But you don't get really a lot of confirmation, which made me go into a trance just thinking like, if this toddler is a toddler for the rest of her life, then is she a toddler for all of eternity now, or is she just small now? I'm just like, okay, thinking too hard on this book. Whatever. Anyway. But apparently this is also ties into, the lore of the second life of Bree Tanner, aka the best Twilight book in existence, let me tell you. Okay, listen. But yeah, apparently they got the minds of children, but they are large murder machines or whatever, so yeah. You kind of get that, But it's also like, do they have the minds of children, or don't they get some knowledge? Don't they mature in age? Yeah, still, a lot of questions. You don't really see. I would like to see a toddler vampire just for comparison's sake, but whatever. I don't know. Then we get the wedding, and oh joy, everyone's there, everyone's great, and oh my gosh, Jacob's here, whoa, yay, it's like he never left. Okay, great. And then Bella makes he tries to make amends with Bella, being the good Chad he tries to be, but was just assassinated in Eclipse. Now he's trying to become the good Chad again, apologizes and all that. But then Bella, being Bella, is like, oh hey, I'm gonna have sex with Edward and all that. And then Jacob's getting all like, turns the complete opposite and turns into a simp and is all like, oh no, stop. And she turns back into a werewolf, and then, tries to, but then his pack comes back and is like, drags him off and all that, which is, just a big scene, a big dramatic soap operic scene, if you will. Joy. And we needed that. Anyway, so yeah, Edward takes Bella to his private island because, of course, he has a private island. Whatever. And then, he doesn't say anything about the honeymoon. He's like, it's a surprise or whatever. Okay, and the private island, and then the cross-species sex scene occurs that every teenager was hoping to see. Bella and Edward get it on, and they get it on, of course. Kind of. Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened. It's kind of... I look, okay, I don't have an issue with Mormons, okay? If Stephenie Meyer is Mormon, good for her, I guess, whatever. But it just gives me a very Mormon-ish thing, like a Mormon-ish taste in my mouth, or a very Christian taste in my mouth, because even though they were building up this sex, she doesn't describe it. They touch hands, basically, and then it kind of pans off to the next day, implying that they did it, but you don't really see it. And look, I'm thank God, mercifully, thank you, Stephenie Meyer, for not giving me that mental image of Edward and Bella having sex, but at the very least, the movie knew what all the teenage girls were trying to, building up to see Edward and Bella having sex. They showed Edward and Bella having sex. It's sort of like in Avengers Endgame when they're seeing this giant build up to this huge ass battle between Thanos and the Avengers and all that. We just cut over to the moon and see the moon, and then all of a sudden we see, Tony Stark's dead somehow. Yeah, that's basically it. It's kind of like that, but for teenage girls in a book. I can understand why people got a little upset with Stephenie Meyer's in this book now. Not that I was rooting for it, but I put my mind in a teenage girl, and I understand. I see the light now, teenage girls. I see the light. And it's during the next day that apparently Edward went into full lust mode, apparently, during sex, and really bruised up Bella quite a bit during that whole rampage and all that, and swears off having sex with her again because he doesn't want to bruise her anymore until she becomes a vampire. And although Bella's all into it, yeah, he doesn't want to do that. Now listen, I get it. You don't want to hurt your significant other, but if she's into it and you're not, maybe you're not so compatible after all, And I truly believe that it's in this one scene that a seed was planted in the toxic community of E.L. James when she created the worst trilogy of all time, at least in my eyes, the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy. Because yes, that was Twilight fan fiction. And it spawned 3 movies. 3 books and 3 movies. All with BDSM. All just awful. But then we find out one day, Bella wakes up and, oh my gosh, she's pregnant. Yep, she's not just, oh, it's like 9 months away, pregnant. Oh gosh, it's about to burst type of pregnant. And I'm like, what? And apparently this whole thing goes down where she's like, yeah, maybe the vampiric women can't get pregnant or whatever, but the vampire men can, and they just haven't had the cross species, deed yet and all that type of thing. Okay. I got over the whole, sparkly skin or whatever. I got over the whole character assassination of Jacob or whatever. But this is where I draw the line, okay? Vampires are dead. They're basically walking zombies, but with better brains, okay? In this world. You mean to tell me that Edward's sperm is still alive and still kicking? Why are you making me think of Edward's sperm, Stephanie Meyer? Why? Dare I say this is probably worse than seeing Edward and Bella do the deed. Anyway, Edward's like, oh, we gotta cut this baby out right now, because that thing will tear her apart from the inside out or whatever, and then we're all just like, why? Okay, whatever, let's see where this goes. And, I guess Bella really wants to have Edward's baby, but Edward's like, oh, no, we gotta cut it out. So, yeah, we get, Bella calling her sister to be all like, hey, can you protect me? Because I don't think Edward will give me a choice. Because why shouldn't a person have free choice in the matter? Of course, anyway. So, yeah, getting political here. And then, that's where the book 1 ends of this book. And look, I gotta admit, I was having kind of the best time with this book. Honestly, I was, after the second life of Bree Tanner, I was like, okay, this series is just a romp. This series is just absolutely hilarious now. Okay, nothing and everything can happen. What does Stephanie Meyers have up her sleeve now? And then we get this just, oh my gosh. First of all, the Avengers Endgame battle that we have, okay? The whole building up to Edward and Bella having sex, like Bella basically begging Edward for 3 gigantic novels. They're not really gigantic, but they seem pretty gigantic in retrospect. These, 3 novels of begging Edward to have sex. They finally do, and she doesn't even, show it. Is just atrocious. I know why, teenage girls kind of jumped off the bandwagon with that, because, yeah, I mean, all that buildup and you don't see it, that would make me mad too. And then, oh gosh, then, at the very end of this book 1 in this last book here, now Stephanie Meyers decides to put in social commentary here with giving women free choice. Maybe it's because I just live in 2023 or 2024 and I'm just absolutely abysmal by the politicalness of it. But listen, okay, I don't know if it was supposed to be political commentary or something, but if you're going to do it now, after 3 books of Bella just being impulsive and just being all around, just all about Edward to the point where she doesn't even have a character anymore, now you're going to give us some political commentary? No. No, okay? No. Wow. No. You have not earned that. No. Gosh, what the hell? But then we're going to move on to book 2 in the 4th book of this quadrilogy, I suppose. Yes, it's the only POV switch in this entire saga other than the short second life of Bree Tanner, aka the best of the entire saga, I guess, technically. And in this one, we find it's Jacob. Yes, Jacob, the Giga Chad of this entire saga for a book, and then really fell off the bandwagon in Eclipse, and now is still being his normal garbage self. Whatever. Anyway, we find Jacob. He's just chilling, trying to, awaiting his precious Bella, coming back, planning whether or not the werewolves are going to attack and all that, finding out if Bella's dead or undead, if you will. And then, they start the attack and all that and yada, yada, whatever. And then, I guess more werewolves are being imprinted or, imprinting on people and all that than previously realized. And, we get the special hangout with his personal bro, Quill, who is the one that imprinted on a toddler who is now age 3. So, yeah. And listen, okay, it's not, I'm just going to interrupt this, okay? Listen, we've been through a lot, right? We've been through Bella, just, teenage, unaliving, if you will, so she can get closer to her boy toy, I suppose, that type of thing. We've been through the beta-ness of Jacob and all that, and just the emotional whirlwind that is, this teenage angst, if you will. But this section right here is literally the most cringiest, the weirdest, the most awful storyline in the entire saga up to this point, okay? I could barely get through it. Listen, okay, I went through the new moon with Bella trying to do some really awful garbage to herself, okay, that I do not recommend. I went through the character assassination of Jacob in Eclipse, but it's this right here that made me want to put these series down and made me contemplate on making this video to begin with. Listen, okay, I've never wanted to not do that, okay? I've never in my life wanted to not make a video this bad, but you know what? I'm pushing through it because I'm just so far in, and I'm not going to have these books on my shelf anymore for nothing. We're pushing through it, okay? We're pushing through it, but I gotta say, Quinn or Quill, whoever his name is, I forget. I just honestly forgot, but Quill babysitting a 17-year-old, babysitting a 3-year-old that he intends to mate with later on in life is the worst thing in this entire saga. I'm putting my foot down right here with this. This is the most cringiest thing I've ever read in my life. And yes, I haven't read 50 Shades of Grey. Who knows? Maybe if these videos do well, I might do that too. Whatever. But where was I again? Oh, okay. Back to the story, I guess. So apparently word comes back to the pack, quack pack, if you will. Back to the pack that apparently Bella is back, but she's being isolated due to a disease, unknown disease, and all that, which is Some of the werewolves are kind of deciphering. It's like, oh wait, hang on, maybe this would kind of fit the mold here for changing Bella into a vampire and all that type of doodad stuff, thus breaking the treaty and thus, starting the war, and also saying, hey, to the relatives, hey, she died because of this disease, this rare disease or whatever. So yeah, there's that too. But for some reason, the werewolves decide not to attack because even though I guess Bella is breaking the treaty or whatever, Bella was put into this thing on her own free will. So at least there's that. Okay. And Jacob, he's all like, this poor soul. Stephanie Meyer, what did you do to this man? Anyway, so he decides to go and just kill as many Collins as possible because he's beta now, whatever. And he finds out the truth that, Bella is still alive. She's still human, but she is being literally torn apart from the inside out because her baby is half vampire and all that. And apparently they all find out that there's legends that have transpired with this type of thing. Now they do, but apparently you can't do that. Like, she can't bring the pregnancy to term because the baby is going to literally tear her apart. Yeah. Okay. And even though, Edward wants to take the baby out, a abortion, if you will. And, her sister, Bella's sister and all that is acting as her bodyguard and all that. So they don't do that. But, Edward then makes a deal with Jacob, saying that if Jacob can talk her out of having this baby, then Edward will share Bella and Jacob can impregnate her with his baby. Am I almost done? No, I'm halfway through this book. Oh no. Oh gosh. But then the caveat is, if everything doesn't go according to plan and Bella dies, then, Jacob can kill Edward and all that. So, okay, cool. Whatever. Anyway, so Jacob is at first repulsed by this, but then goes along with the plan because, of course, he's now beta as all hell. So there's that. And, of course, thank God above that Bella actually says no to this. At least she has some self-respect left in her character. Finally. Thank you. And then I guess Jacob goes back to the pack and tells them what's going on and all that. And, I guess the werewolves are just like, okay, time to attack now because, we don't know what's inside her and they might be a gigantic monster. Well, we gotta destroy it. But even though Jacob, wants to protect Bella, and wants that thing out of her too, apparently, he's like, no, let's keep Bella, alive and all that and stop that. But apparently the Alpha uses his Alpha powers to, how should I put this? Telepathize? Like, use his telepathy to, use the werewolves to do his bidding and all that. But apparently Jacob's lineage is so thoroughbred with his werewolf abilities that he now has the choice of becoming an alpha. Okay, and then activates his alpha powers to go against the alpha and start his own pack. I have no words. Deus Ex Machina, I guess. And, I guess a couple people joined Jacob's pack and all that. So we'll put that. Okay, let's put a pin in that. Okay, we'll put a little pin right there with those two people that joined Jacob's pack. The end. Let's continue. So I do say, okay, that the babysitting the 3-year-old, the 17-year-old, or whatever, that is the hardest I have ever cringed reading anything in my entire life. And I've read the ending of Grapes of Wrath, and that was just utterly bizarre in my opinion. But gosh, this takes the cake, okay? But the ending of this book came very close. Let me tell you what, okay? This is the end of not the Breaking Dawn, not the end of this book, but the end of the Jacob Hart book, whatever you want to call it. Yes, this almost took the cake, okay? I can't believe that I'm saying this, but there is a scene that is almost worse, if not as worse, as that babysitting, grooming scene crap thing, whatever. So the rest of this book, the Jacob book, not the Breaking Dawn book, thank God. But the rest of the Jacob book is about, I know it's really confusing. Blame Stephanie Meyer. Anyway, the rest of the book is about Bella's birth, or Bella giving birth, and yeah, it's very utterly bizarre and very horrific, if you will. Horrific indeed. So Bella is, screaming, and, she's in gigantic pain, and Jacob, comes to her aid as well and all that, and decides, what, hey, since this thing that's inside her is a vampire, let's see if she can drink blood and, quench the kid's thirst and all that. So Bella drinks blood, and the baby, subsides, and she's better and all that, and Bella seems better and all that, whatever. Edward can read the baby's mind now. Why he couldn't do that before, whatever. Anyway, so now he can read the mind of the baby, and the kid has a fondness for her mother, and Edward thinks, oh, wait, maybe killing the kid is not necessarily the best move now either, because, she actually does love the mother and all that. So, yeah, so killing the kid, that's a red X now. And it's here that, Bella's health is, continuing to not improve, going back downhill, to the point where the vampire's kicks, the baby's vampire kicks, basically crushes her spine and makes Bella basically, I guess, suffocates and all that, and makes the baby suffocate as well. And they're both about to literally die. And it gets graphic. It gets extremely graphic. And right before Bella passes out, she asks for a emergency C-section. And this is the point of no return, okay? Listen. Okay. This is the part where it gets even worse. And I know, okay, I'm a man. I would never know the joys of bringing a child into the world, but I've also witnessed a lot of births, and they don't get as graphic as this. Let me tell you, okay, just I can't even begin to describe what exactly happens. It is just utterly atrocious. So, yeah, content warning for this, because, yeah, it's going to get real juicy. So, the doctor is out of commission. He's on his doctoral rounds or whatever. So, Edward, Jacob, and this other chick, I guess, needs to do it themselves. Okay, and on top of everything, the placenta is made up out of, like, this diamond vampiric hide or whatever. It's made out of diamond vampiric stuff, and the only stuff that can, cut it is vampiric fingernails and vampiric teeth. So, they literally rip her open and cut the baby out and do all that type of stuff. The girl gets a taste of Bella's blood and wants to, just completely eat her up, I guess. But Jacob punts her across the room to lay off of her and all that. And so Bella's basically dead after all that. And, they take the baby out. And Edward then decides to inject a syringe of his vampiric, venom, I guess, straight into her heart. And then starts doing CPR to get all that stuff go all throughout her body. All right, that's the end of the content warning. What the actual hell? What? Oh my gosh. Anyway, then Jacob runs down to try to get the kill the baby or whatever for what happened to Bella, and immediately imprints upon her because why the hell not? And yeah, so right as that happens, Bella awakens from, her transformation as a vampire and, recovers and all that, and she becomes a vampire. The end of this book. What the actual hell is this? If I was ranking, if this was actually, its own book, okay, this would be at the bottom. Very, very close to the bottom of, perpetual hell, okay? This is, the worst thing one of the worst things I've ever read. And that's saying a lot, because I've been through this whole saga, and I was like, okay, this is bad, but it's, whatever. This is garbage. This is actual, toilet trash right here, okay? Listen. And you may be wondering why I put the whole Leia thing, put the pin in the Leia thing. That's just because I needed a break, okay? I've been just yelling to the high heavens, old man yelling at a cloud for so long that I needed I needed a breather, okay? I need a little symbolism of hope here, just a little break. But also, I guess it kind of worked out because this whole Leia storyline kind of exemplifies my frustration with a lot of these stories, a lot of these character stories that have gone over throughout this entire Twilight saga, if you will. And I'll just briefly mention summarize this story because it's actually started in Eclipse, but I kind of brushed it over because this type of thing was kind of implanted in the back of my mind, I mean, it worked out for the end, okay? It worked out for the end here. So, Leia, she is a werewolf, and in fact, the first female werewolf. Yes. And the backstory of her is that she used to be the Alpha's main bae, if you will, who is also named Sam. I finally found the worst Sam in all of fiction, but here we are. Anyway, they were dating and all that, but then Sam, imprinted on Emily. So now they're together, and now, Leia, she's now, after that whole thing transpired, turns out she's also a werewolf. And the reason why, a lot of her angst and all that was coming on after the breakup was because she was transforming into a werewolf. And it's also implied throughout this entire series that all werewolves are now like, telepathic intertwined, I guess. They can read everyone's minds and emotions and all that type of stuff. So, yeah. Not only is she, her ex, like a very toxic ex, is now, her alpha, where she has to obey him and everything. But now she has to relive the memories of Sam and Emily having sex, because of course they had sex and all that, and their love for each other, and it's very torturous, okay? There's no way she can get out of it, so she's kind of trapped. It's also told through us that Leia can't have kids because she's a werewolf, and she feels like she's half a woman because she can't birth kids, which is another problematic thing. Like, let me just pull some mental health gymnastics on you, okay? Some good mental health thing. If any of you can't have kids, that shouldn't, define you, okay? You should just go out and just be you, okay? It doesn't matter if you can make kids or whatever, you shouldn't feel, less of a person because you can't have kids. You are you, okay? And you should just be the special person you are, okay? Making kids, that's not necessarily the end-all be-all, okay? So don't even worry about it. And I'm not a therapist, okay? But if you're having some issues with that, please go see a therapist. But anyway, it's also implied that she can't have a period either. And since she's the only female werewolf in existence, she can't share it with anyone. She can't talk it over with anyone. And because they're all intertwined with their minds and all that, whatever she thinks about it, she's just bombarded by the men and all that, and just saying, ew, gross, telepathically speaking and all that. And so she can't even think about her issues. This is the worst. This is literally the worst. I'm not a woman, okay? I'm a cisgendered male. And even I have to say, this is just ewy. This is gross. This is just ewy. No, I don't like this. And it's only through Jacob that she finally gets her salvation, and she can finally cut loose from Sam and all that. And when, the people try to convince these 3 defectors to come back, Leia's like, no, and that's it. That's literally the end of her story. That's literally... So, listen, okay? I can forgive, terrible, horrible garbage that happens to people if there's good redemption or a good story or something like that to kind of redeem or teach a lesson or whatever, something, anything to happen. But it literally amounts to nothing. Leia is barely mentioned for the rest of the book. That's it. This one storyline here exemplifies everything that is wrong with this series. Even though these books are gigantic, if you look at them, they're gigantic, okay? Even though these books are gigantic, they don't amount to anything. There's storylines, there are plot points that are decent enough, okay, but they don't follow up and teach good lessons. They don't teach good stories. They don't show good stories. It all amounts to literally nothing. A lot of deus ex machinas, a lot of garbage, a lot of terrible messages for kids because these messages are half-baked to begin with. And it's just utterly terrifying. It terrifies me, the fact that there are so many, teenage girls who've read these books and found solace within these books because the lessons that are taught here are just horrendous. They are just utterly horrible. And we're not even halfway through Breaking Dawn. Pray for me. Here we go. So now we have a redo of the birthing scene from the previous Jacob-centered book. From Bella's perspective this time. Wonderful. And we also see, from her point of view, what it is like turning into a vampire. Once again, thank you. We really needed that. And, from the second short life of Bree Tanner, thank God, we get a little tidbits from that. We see, Edward's family, the Cullens or whatever, they're just like, oh, shoot, Bella, we don't want to, hurt you or anything like that, She's just like walking on eggshells around her because, as we know from the second short life of Bree Tanner, the best thing in this entire saga, I will not stop praising the great works of this short story. But anyway, as we know, the newer vampires, they're very blood hungry, thirsty, and they're all ready to just jack up everything, just tear apart the world or whatever. But apparently, Bella has entirely skipped this thing here. This transformation segment here. Okay. Yeah, she's calm, cool, and collected. Yep. There we are, I guess. And they force her to go hunting for the first time and all that before even seeing her baby. Okay. I don't know anymore. Let's just continue. The only time her rage actually does come out, though, is when she finds out that Jacob has imprinted upon her newly born child. And rightfully so. Almost decking him across the room or whatever, but Seth gets in the way and breaks his arm in the process and all that, which I gotta say, out of the sheer insanity that was Jacob's book, okay, finally some levity, some common sense within this novel. Finally, thank God, it comes with this. And I know there is that meme that came out of the, I guess, Breaking Dawn Part 2 movie where you name my kid after the Loch Ness Monster. That was, I gotta say, while reading that, just imagining that scene with the Loch Ness Monster, it was a sore sight to behold. I actually smiled while reading it. Not for the sake of good writing or good storytelling or whatever, but just the fact that it was very meme-worthy, I gotta say. Unfortunately, though, this is short-lived because, we find out later on that, Bella's fine with the fact that her daughter will eventually marry Jacob. And apparently it's okay for this imprinting to happen. There's a real Native American tribe. Let me just say this. There's a real Native American tribe that Stephanie Meyer chose to portray in this novel. And the fact that they use imprinting is nowhere in their culture. So this is just cringe to the nth degree, honestly, and I'm kind of sick and tired of imprinting. So I'm not going to say anything else about imprinting anymore because I am at that point of pure insanity. My last brain cell is on the rise here. Let's just move on. But before we do, want to know why Jacob calls her Nessie? I found this out in this book. It's because Bella decides to name the kid Renesmee because they combine the grandmother's first names into Renesmee, and the Ness is Nessie. So there you go. That's the origin of the Loch Ness Monster. Oh, it's the little things. It's the little things that brighten my day nowadays. Speaking of Renesmee, or as I will call her now, the Loch Ness Monster, she fastly develops and really grows a lot, developing babies within weeks. She becomes a baby 9 weeks old in a day or something. So there's that, and she also apparently portrays a lot of cognitive thought nowadays, especially since she was born a day ago, but whatever, I guess. And apparently her superpower, because of course vampires have to have superpowers now, she can transmit images or past emotions or memories or whatever into another person via touch. So there you go. Who knew that a garbage superpower could exist? Worse than transforming into any type of water in existence, aka the Wonder Twins, if you will. Yeah, that's worse. And then, the Cullens, apparently, they build a house so Edward and Bella can, just do the Harlem Shake, do the vampire shake, if you will. And yeah, apparently, we find out that the Cullens, they really, really, really love doing the vampire shake. They just hide it very, very well. And I gotta say, out of everything, this is the one where I feel the most uncomfortable within this saga. Not cringeworthy, not the worst thing I've ever read, of course, that's all in the Jacob part of this book. But this is the most I feel numb now. I feel numb after the Jacob book, that I'm just like, I can't even feel how cringe and how terrible this is. So, okay, let's move on. So, even though Bella is progressing as a vampire very, very well, to the point where we all are asking ourselves, why did it take 3.5 gigantic books for this thing to happen? But here we are. It's also established that, maybe it's a little too dangerous to go back to your friends and family and all that, and probably should skip out with Edward and the kid for a couple decades, so, you don't have to really handle that or whatever. But apparently, Jacob and his royal, my dude, no. He decides that, he should transform into a werewolf and invite the father of Bella's father, over to see the newlyweds and the kid. Yeah. Okay. But apparently the Cullens, they hide enough so that this poor mustached father figure here, it's just decides, you know what, I'm gonna live in blatant ignorance, because I don't care exactly what's going on, okay, just as long as you're happy and healthy, and the kid's happy and healthy, whatever. As long as the daughter's, the daughter's weird, the kid's weird, but you know what? I'm just gonna live in blatant ignorance, whatever. And it's because of all this that, Bella can have her cake and eat it too, that she forgives Jacob for endangering her father and her kid. Okay. Yes, we're back to the normal Twilight garbage now. Okay. It was like the book was naked for a second, and we got it back. Okay, it's back. And apparently, according to Stephanie Myers, This is the hardest thing she ever had to write, apparently. 3 months later, because she hates skipping time or whatever. Okay, that's the hardest thing you ever had to write. I can't even anymore. I just want to get this over with. Let's move on. So, Renesmee is apparently rapidly growing and will apparently reach adulthood in 6 years and will apparently stop aging. Why? Hey, your guess is as good as mine, okay? I've read more Twilight than I ever want to admit to anyone ever again, okay? So I'm done. I'm done trying to decipher the lore. Deus Ex Machina, the end. Well, okay, come on, let's continue. And apparently it's during a hunting trip between Jacob, Bella, and the kid that apparently this vampiric woman that's apparently, hinted at before, but now she's center stage now, who apparently, I guess the vampire that got destroyed in New Moon by the werewolves and all that was her bae, I guess, whatever. But anyway, she sees the new child, thinking that she's like a vampiric kid and all that. So she tattles on them to the Venturi over here, okay? Because apparently that's another big no-no. The rules. You gotta stick to the rules now, but the rules don't care other times, but the rules care now. God. So they start forming a plan, because the Venturi are coming, and they decide to form an army of werewolves and vampires together so that they can take down the Venturi, because of course they do. Because I guess everything's happy-go-lucky now. Whatever. However, you may be wondering, well, they're going up against a huge army, what about that vampire that can, see into the future and all that? Yeah, she cheeses out of it with Jasper and all that. So yeah, there you go. She's gone, but she leaves a note. Don't worry, she leaves a note. But of course, the vampires are all like, "Oh wait, hey, she cheesed it out because it's the end times and all that." So, okay. But apparently, get this, the notes was apparently written out of a torn page from I guess this vampire's edition of The Merchant of Venice. So Bella goes into that book, The Merchant of Venice, and realizes there's a second note. And then they apparently have to go and do this other thing, this whole, I don't know, Da Vinci Code-esque, thing here, this quest thing that apparently leads up to literally nothing. Yeah. The Cullens, I guess they talk with the Venturi and all that, and Renesmee also apparently just zooms the truth telepathically into their minds and all that, and so there you go. So, and also apparently Bella can use her vampiric powers to create a force field around the family and friends and all that, and she can stop the telepathy off of the Venturi or whatever. And apparently it takes years to master, but she takes days, so of course she's the best vampire of all time. Okay, actually, I'm sorry. It was actually the whole Cullens or whatever. They Renesmee zoomed the truth to all the people in there. Plot points are very blending together. Okay, I'm sorry, but apparently, everyone has like a giant council, if you will, to just lay down their arms and say, hey, we'll fight to the death, even when, anything goes awry or whatever. And Edward tries to train Bella, but he can't because he can't bear the sight of, fighting her as an opponent and all that. Oh, gosh. And here it comes, the big, huge thing here. The werewolves and the vampires versus the Ventari, and independent vampires that have seen the crime and will, witness the punishment and all that type of deal. And apparently the Ventari, they're all like, they've wanted an excuse to take out the Cullens for eons, and now they finally got that. Joy to the world. Okay, so there's a lot of hoopla here, so I'm just going to summarize this whole thing, okay? So, the Ventari, they tried to, get the Cullens on breaking the rules of vampiricness and whatever, but apparently, she's not, Renesmee is not a vampire, so there you go. So they try to get them on technicalities or whatever, and the technicality that they fall on is that we don't know what a half-human, half-vampire will become and all that. So, yeah, they got to take them out. So they try to do a little bit of attacks, but they can't do anything through Bella's force field and all that. And then the telepathy vampire, she comes back with a half-human, half-vampire. So, yeah, everything's good. And they show them that, yeah, he's a good guy. And, the Ventari, they go home. Yes. That's it. Apparently, the best thing in this entire movie saga was an original concept where the vampires and the werewolves fight the Ventari and all that. That doesn't happen in the book. Because of course it doesn't. The one thing I was looking forward to, even if it was like just a wet blanket, like a pulling a rug out from under me, like it was just a dream sequence or whatever, I was looking forward to it, but of course, nothing. Great. And that's basically it. They apparently Jacob is willing to wait 6 years for the consummation of Renesmee's and Jacob's love, and Bella can now completely control the whole vampiric, I guess, mind control thing that she had or whatever. So she lets Edward read her mind for the first time, and Edward sees how much she loves him, and then they live happily ever after. The end. Can you tell this book divided the fan base? And yes, I can, because this book was just absolute garbage either way. This is not only my least favorite book in the entire saga up to this point, this is my least favorite book of all time. Yes. Not because of it's so bad it's good. Don't get me wrong, okay? There are many hilarious scenes, like for instance, the Loch Ness Monster thing. That got to me a little. But just the fact that A, it's racist, B, it endorses grooming, and C, this late in the game, it tries so hard to be feminist and try to have Bella speak up for herself is just, it's too little too late. Okay? No. I'm sorry. No. And I gotta say, there are scenes within this book that are so bad, they are basically etched in my mind probably for the rest of my life. It's gonna be living free, rent-free in my brain for the rest of my life. Thank you, Stephanie. You ruined my brain. That being said, minus the sexism, minus the racism, all that, minus the grooming, all that bull crap or whatever, I do have to acknowledge the fact that I commend Stephanie Meyer on how she ended her story. She ended the story how she wanted to end the story. There are many different vampire shows and stories or whatever that show, a big gigantic climactic ending and all that, but instead she tried to focus on the battle of the minds and all that, and she didn't want anybody to, necessarily die as a result from it, which, while it's not written well, I commend her on, following through on how she wanted her story to end. Despite many people wanting it to end a certain way, she ended it her way. And I gotta say, no bad feelings there, okay? Just the racism, sexism, and the whole grooming thing. That, yeah, but otherwise, it's, you do you, okay? You do you. Oh, and by the way, the whole side quest thing that basically amounted to nothing was basically trying to find the half vampire, half human thing. Yeah, I mean, it didn't take a whole lot for me to say how they found him, right? Yep, there you go. But the worst part about this book, I mean, there's a lot of bad things, but there's one thing that I haven't mentioned yet that is really wrong with this book, is that even though, okay, I commend her on, the mental gymnastics or whatever, right? Even though she couldn't write to save her life, but that's not the ending battle. That's just delaying the inevitable. Yeah, the Volturi peace out, but they say they're going to come back later on down the road. So they didn't stop it, they just delayed it. So really, it's not the ending. So yeah, and apparently, according to one of her many insider, interviews that she's done, she apparently is floating the idea around for doing like a spin-off book on how to, definitively destroy the Ventari and all that, but I think that's come a little too late, Steph. Yeah. But honestly, I'm glad this entire saga is over. And trust me, the short second life of Bree Tanner, that is so bad it's good, with a few redeeming elements. Then you got Twilight, and then everything just keeps on going down and down and down to the pits of hell. But if you think we're done, we're not done quite yet, kind folks, because we got 2 more books to decipher and get into, because of course we do.